Hello, welcome back to my allotment at the end of September 2020. It's trying to rain right now and it's quite breezy and cold today, but the start of the month, in fact most of September, was really warm and sunny. It was like we had an extended summer here in England until the autumn equinox, and now suddenly it's definitely autumn. The temperatures have dropped. It's going to be 4 degrees tonight, which is really quite cold for the time of the year. I'm all layered up and ready for the new season. September's been about harvesting all of my crops and using them, preserving them. You might have seen my video that went out the other day about me harvesting all of my September crops, but we do still have some more to pick. We have lots more to pick and harvest actually, but today on our little tour I'm going to pick some of my sweet corn and also my squash. There are a few new changes to the plot this month, but on the whole it's just been harvesting and starting to think about my autumn prep and plans as we go into winter. I've ordered my garlic. It hasn't arrived yet, so I'm planting that in October. I also still need to order my sort of spring flowering bulbs. I haven't ordered those yet, and yeah, I need to start planning and prepping, thinking about winter and also next year's crops, my crop rotation, and if I'm going to plant any of my field beans as a winter green manure. Haven't thought about that yet, so yeah, I've just been too focused in the kitchen to do much plot prep at the moment, but I'm not too worried because, well, I'm just not that worried. In the middle of the month I went to Chatsworth and I went all around their gardens for my birthday, and thank you very much to Mick for my little tour around the glass houses, and also to Sarah and Glenn for my tour around the kitchen garden. It was absolutely gorgeous, took lots of inspiration and just had a really good day there. And for my birthday I actually got that Kelly kettle you may have seen me use in the intro. It's like a little burner that you can use to make hot water and use as a little stove as well. And it's an alternative to my gas stove that I have in the shed to make my cups of tea, because in winter the gas doesn't work. It doesn't work below a certain temperature and it's not very economical or environmentally friendly. There's a lot of waste involved because you have to get through so many gas canisters, and I've decided to switch to this new Kelly kettle method. So I just burn little pieces of wood, and yeah, it was just a great little present for me, and I'm looking forward to trying that out more over the winter months when I can warm myself up with lots of tea and hot soup in the shed, but not burn down the shed. Won't be doing it in the shed. As we go on the tour today, I need to pick some crops. I'm going to harvest all of my squash, and I also need to get some sweet corn in as well, and I'm just going to think about tonight's temperatures and any plants that I might need to bring home. I think my pelargoniums, they might be coming home tonight because they don't really like temperatures below 5 degrees. Well, I've pretty much finished my cup of tea now, so I'm just going to gulp this down and then we'll start the tour. Even the hawthorn tree above my gate is now changing, looking quite autumnal with lots of yellowing leaves now. And we'll go to the gate and see how the plot is looking in September. Well, lots of dahlias. In fact, they're probably looking at their best right now. I've got so many blooms, and I'll show you all of those as we get to them later. But look at all those colours. You see that orange one? It's not supposed to be in this border because, well, I mislabeled it, and so it's the only orange amongst all of the whites and the pinks. But never mind, I might have to move them around again. And just next to my dahlia border we've got that big hosta, and I'm actually going to lift and divide this probably in October. Actually, I thought about doing it in spring, but I know I'm going to be far too busy to think about doing it in spring, so actually I'm going to do it in autumn. So next month I'm going to chop that up, divide it, because it's too big now for that little space, so I'll put the other divisions somewhere else. I also planted out a little heuchera down here with some carex next to it, and there's my little tiny pond looking quite autumnal now that the crocosmia, that's starting to yellow and brown as well now. I'm just going to stand here just for a minute because this month actually marks 6 years since I've had my allotment, and I have a photograph of this exact view with my plum tree, the bird feeding station right there. And 6 years ago it was completely covered in weeds and the shed wasn't there, it was just a load of doors held together with ivy. So to look at this view now and compare it to 6 years ago, you know, it feels like quite an achievement to get this far. So as we go down my little table where all my pelargoniums were, it's looking a bit bare because I've moved them into the polytunnel just for a bit of protection from all of the rain and the cold temperatures that we're having. But we do still have my Judith Hindle Sarracenia, and that's rather loving life, putting on its best autumn colours now. And yeah, it's a bit gruesome when you look down the pictures, and I do feel a little bit bad sometimes, but it's such a beautiful plant and I love learning about new plants that are really fascinating. And just next to it we've got my new favourite cosmos. This is Cosmos Seashells. Can't remember if I showed you last month, but I absolutely love it. It's so pretty, and I'm going to be saving the seeds from this one to grow again next year. So you just wait for the seed heads to finish flowering. Don't deadhead all of them at this time of the year, and then once those seeds there start to turn brown, you can remove this head and then just dry them off. Looking at my leeks, they look pretty good, but do you remember last month I was worried about rust? Well, look at that, it's covered in it. Or at least that leaf is. I mean, you can remove some of the worst leaves and try and reduce the spread, but it's kind of inevitable, especially when you're on an allotment site with so many plots. The strawberry beds, they're starting to get a bit autumnal colours there with the red. But as we look down my hedges, well, they all need a bit of a trim. Although they are covered in lots of rose hops from my rugosa rose. Oh, hello. I've got my sweet corn. Need to harvest some of these now. I've had quite a few cobs already, but there are quite a few of these big ones left to pick still, and I'm really excited because there's just nothing better than having a nice fresh corn on the cob smothered in butter, in my opinion. Sweet corn is actually one of the crops that I don't always grow every year because I've had limited success with it, to say the least. One year I had a load of rats come and steal them, another year they just didn't really perform very well, but this year they've done really well. I grew a variety called Amaze. It wasn't one that I was particularly keen to try, it was just the one that I had available during lockdown when seeds were pretty scarce. As soon as you pick the sweet corn cobs, the sugars start to turn to starch, and you want to use it as quickly as you can so that you've got all that sweetness and all that flavour. And so yes, I'll be cooking them up and eating them pretty much as soon as I get home. You don't want to be keeping them in your fridge for a day or two because they just won't taste as good. So I'm going to harvest 2 of these now. You pull down, that's the size of the cob. There's a earwig right there, don't like earwigs. But I'm just going to peel off these outer layers. And obviously I never know what the success of the pollination is going to be until you harvest it and pull these silks back. We've got an almost, well, it is completely perfectly pollinated corn on the cob. Really big one. I'm absolutely chuffed with that. That is just brilliant. My sunflower plant is still blooming, but it's all of these little side shoots and it's getting shorter as I deadhead them. But of course we've got lots of seeds in there which I'll be saving to sow and grow, and also leave some for the birds as well because they absolutely love sunflower seeds. Down by the apple tree, well, if you saw my harvest video you'll know that I've now picked all the apples off the tree. My raspberries, we've still got lots of autumn fruiting raspberries coming thick and fast, and even the all gold is now fruiting, which I didn't think was making an appearance this year. As we go down to the wildlife corner, I've got my red stool there that I need to fix, and all of the plants are looking pretty fab. Still loving all those anemones that I got the other month. It's a shame the bees aren't out today, it's a little bit cool and breezy for them. The birds have been loving the bird bath over this hot September. And here we have some of my new dahlias for this year. Here's a plot from the lower end. Still so much colour with all the nasturtiums in front of my carrot bed and all the dahlias at the back. if you ignore all the rubbish that's in my shed and concentrate on these boxes, which are a new little feature that I've added. It's like a little bug hotel, just recycled these wooden boxes that were otherwise going to be chucked, and I've put some twigs, some pine cones and some sticks and bits of wood in there for lots of different creatures to take shelter, and it also just looks rather nice, so quite pleased with that little feature. And I've also planted out this bed that was a bit of an eyesore and a bit of an annoyance to me when it was all just not really planted very well. So in here now we've got some Celeriac, some heucheras, some orange pansies, some variegated trailing ivy for the front, and yeah, I just really love that heuchera, the way that the purple streak picks up on the other. Over at my fencing trellis, everything's growing rather nicely still, and I even threw some beans in as a little bit of a trial just to see how they do. And look, we've got some great big borlotti beans on the way. They still need to fatten up some more before I harvest them. Hopefully they won't get frosted away before I get a chance to pick them. But yeah, they seem to have done okay considering it's part shade down here. I've still got a few flowers on the clematis. Absolutely love that colour. And even the seed heads, look, once the flowers have gone, they look really nice. I really love this persicaria. I think it's called Red Dragon maybe? Really contrasting arrowhead. And the origerons come into bloom in my recycled broken planter there. My elephant ear Colocasia Esculenta is no longer here. It's okay, it's just at home because it's getting too cold and I'm going to overwinter it as a house plant. Oh, just look at that light. Got dark skies and the sun's coming out. It's really very orange light at the moment with this autumn wind. Now there's something in this bed that I need to show you. Oh, and look at the size of that beetroot. That's a good one. Now I've got a bit of a confession. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been early August or late July, and I sowed some turnip seeds and I thought, I've not sown them before, I've not grown them or even eaten turnip before. And they're a really fast crop to harvest. Within about 5 weeks they're ready. So I thought it'd be great to fill a gap that I had here. So I sowed the seed, planted them out when they were big enough, and I completely forgot about them. And I probably should have harvested some of these a little while ago. I multi-sowed them, so they're growing in a little bit of a clump. But there's one down here and it's turned out to be an absolute monster. I should have harvested them when they're about the size of a tennis ball. I've grown the purple top Milan variety, but look at this beast. I really need your help. I don't know what to do with this. Ah! Just look at it. I mean, it's an absolute monster and I've got no idea what to do with it. So please, in the comments, tell me, is this still good to eat? Is it going to taste a bit woody and not very nice? What do I do with turnip this big? Do I treat it like a Swede? Yeah, I could do with your help on this one, guys. What do I do? In the same bed we've got my Celeriac plants and they're still fattening up. They're not growing too big at the moment, but I remember last year they didn't really get too big for me. Should probably move some of this forget-me-not as well, but I love the way it's all against the path. Looks great in spring, so I'll divide that, move that around so I've got lots more forget-me-not everywhere. And we've also got some parsnips down in this bed. Obviously I won't be harvesting these for another few months after I've had lots of frosts to help sweeten them up, but I have been looking down here just to see that white flesh and see that they're fattening up quite nicely, so hopefully we're going to have a good year for parsnips. The carrots are still doing fine in their raised bed. I've got a big gap there from where I harvested my potatoes. I'm thinking about maybe sowing a field bean green manure in that space. And we've also got lots more courgettes here to pick. They're still coming thick and fast, although look, mildew is now setting in on the leaves. The bed outside my polytunnel doesn't have too much going on. We've got 2 squash there. They still aren't quite ready for picking yet. Still need to ripen some more, although mildew is setting in on the leaves of those as well. I've harvested most of the chilies from my jalapeno chili pepper pots, but the bed in front of the dahlias is where it's really at, because I've got all of these squash to harvest. All of the squash are now ready for harvesting. The temperatures at night are starting to dip quite low, and we don't want these squash to freeze if we have a frost. And they've all matured, they're all ripe now, so they're ready for harvesting. And another way of knowing is that you can press your nail into the main stem or the stalk of the squash, and it should be quite firm. If it's at all soft, it's not quite fully ripe, but you can still harvest it and let it cure at home for a few weeks to fully ripen before you store it. So now it's just a case of going around cutting off all of the squash from the main stems, and yeah, let's see how many squash we harvest today. I think we've reached peak dahlia now in this month. All those beautiful wizard of Oz are out. Lots of cafe au lait, white and Esther, some straw flowers. The natal, that's the burgundy one. More cafe au lait. The purple one there, that's creme de cassis. And more of the same. And I just love that orange one, even though I didn't mean for it to go there. It really contrasts nicely against all that green in the hedge. And all the Origerons still blooming at the front. Really do love what I've done here this year with the extension. And it's all looking really colourful. I'm going to really miss this view in the winter months when it's all gone. Everything's a bit bleak and empty, lacking colour. So I'm just going to hang on to this view just for a little while longer. Take it all in. Let's go inside the polytunnel and escape all of this wind. Well, the tomatoes are pretty much all picked now. I have moved my canner, the one that's in a pot, a small pot that I'm able to move, in here ahead of the cold night tonight. Obviously this isn't frost hardy, so I'll be cutting it back and storing it in a basement over winter. Yep, so most of the tomatoes are gone. I've picked a lot of the chilies, but we've still got lots of chilies and peppers to come. You can see they've all wilted. I've stopped watering them to try and get them to ripen. They don't really need the leaves that much now anyway. It's all in the fruit. This is the RG Fantasy, which is actually quite a mild one. Next to the chilies, I've actually put my Pelagonium Collection in here. It spent the week in here after we had some cold nights, but because it's going to drop to 4 tonight, I need to take them home because they don't really like temperatures below 5 degrees. So it's time to take them home. I'll be keeping these indoors over the winter months because my polytunnel it's not frost proof, so it doesn't really keep the warmth in at all. So these are coming home with me today. We've still got lots of sweet banana peppers to harvest. These are all fully ripened now to a nice red colour. And this is my Bohemian goat chili that I'm really keen to try. because they're quite hot and they didn't grow very well for me last year, but this year, look at the size of that one. So these are going to ripen to orange like the ones below, but they're not going to like the cold weather, so we shall see, but I might have to ripen them at home. These little tiny ones are quite sweet. I think they're called Bequino Yellow. Look like little Christmas lights. And in all the warm weather that we had in September, my Bubba chilies have suddenly ripened at once. Nice bright red colour. It's supposed to be quite a sweet variety. Not too hot, this one, but I haven't actually tried it, so I'm not too sure how hot that one's going to be, so I'm looking forward to that one. So that's the polytunnel for the end of September. Won't be long now before I take out all the tomato plants. And I'm going to start sowing some seeds, I think, in here. A few foxgloves, some flowers, maybe some sweet peas. You can sow those in autumn, so soon be a lot more empty in here. And here we are at the top of the allotment at the end of September 2020. 6 years since I've had my allotment. It's amazing to think how much it's changed. Well, I'm pretty pleased with my squash harvest this year. It may look a little bit lighter and smaller than last year, but I'm actually really pleased about that, because last year I grew the pink banana squash and they were huge. They're about 7.5 kilograms each, and it was just overwhelming. It was too much for me to consume all at once with my partner. It's just the two of us, and it's just too much to deal with, especially when I've got quite a small freezer space as well. So I've grown on purpose much smaller varieties this year. We've got this blue one here, that's the Sibley squash, the green buttercup, we've got the red curry squash, and also this sweet pie or sugar pie, can't quite remember, which is this lovely orange one. I've still got 2 green ones here of the same variety to ripen, so I'll put them on my window ledge at home in the sunshine so they can ripen up fully before I store them or use them. And so yeah, I'm still pretty chuffed with my harvest this year. It's much more manageable for me. As we step into the autumn months, the days are getting much shorter, the crops are slowing down, but there's still so much that we can be doing. At the minute I'm starting to save lots of seeds, my tomato seeds, chili seeds, and the cosmos flowers as well. I've got some bulbs on order, so we're planting lots more flowers for spring. And it's just a great time to be planning for next year. I've got lots of seed catalogues arriving. This one here is one of my favourites by DT Brown Seeds, and they've just got a great selection of varieties of fruit, veg and herbs that you can pick up their seeds. And yeah, they're a great source of inspiration, especially over the winter months when there's not much to do. So it's a good time to sign up to get your free seed catalogues, and I'll link some of my favourite ones in the description below. Something else that's rather exciting for me personally is that I'm continuing my horticulture studies again. So I've already finished the RHS practical course that I did the other year, and now I'm doing my theory course. I'm doing it through the Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh, and I'll be studying remotely from home. I've got my book to go alongside the studies, which is the Principles of Horticulture Level 2. And so that's rather exciting, and I just want to thank you all so much, because it's because of you that I'm on the course, because I do get a little bit of extra pocket money from YouTube each month. That's what those adverts go towards. I get a little bit of money, but I've saved it all up, and that money has gone to pay for my course. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate you watching all my videos. So yeah, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I'm just excited to be studying again. I flicked through some of the pages and it's all very scientific and a little bit overwhelming how many terms and things we're going to have to learn. I will sit some exams. I think they're in February and June next year, so that's a little bit daunting. But I'm sure I'll get through it okay, and I'm sure there's lots more of you studying it as well, so let me know if you're on the same course. Well, I'm going to call it a wrap for today. I'm going to get all of these into my car and head home and make a nice little display with my squash. But yes, thank you very much for joining me, for supporting my channel and supporting my studies as well. I really do appreciate it. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.